Hello there, and welcome to Trish Channel. In this video, I wanted to what you'll see that I invented to do a video covering what neurobiology says on the transgender brain and on gender identity, all that sort of stuff. But we were talking 100 pages. I might put the link in the description below anyway, amongst all the other useful links, because basically, according to neurobiologists. And even though this doesn't necessarily change the sex, because people are so obsessed with sex and all that, you know, physical sex and stuff like that, the biological physical sex, they can't get past that. They're fixated in their brain. They've actually found, like, say, homosexuality or your sexuality, just as they found that as biologically valid. How do I put it simply? In that same area, as it were, of the brain, with all the neuro things happening, as it were. This sort of goes into sort of. This is actually quite good. This, I mean, I had a quick breeze through it because I had to see if I'm not sure if I did an article, did a video to this article already, so I do apologise. But I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, the actual evidence. I mean, the problem is that there is a catch-22. It's like a consensus. There's a consensus. Like, there's a 99% chance that it's true. Or but in order to say, here's, but then again, people want solid, in-your-face evidence, don't they? And I think the problem with that is they said something like, we would have to rewrite certain laws concerning experimentation on humans, because that's what's going to take. But where they've done it with genetic samples and stuff like that, using on animals, it gets really complicated. Like I said, it's loads of pages, but it does involve them doing some things to volunteers. But anyway, that sounds a lot more. It's not quite what they say, but it's complicated. They have to bend certain legalities to do experiments and stuff. But anyway, this is really good because it highlights certain points. I just had a quick scan for it. So this is research on the transgender brain, what you should know. Because basically, like the neurobiology, it says their identity, their gender identity is valid. So putting their body, right, let's just get obsessions out of our brains and put the body, the physical aspect, to the side, right? Because everyone thinks it's a mental illness when it's not quite. It's not quite. And then this mentions something as well that's interesting structurally, but we'll get to that anyway. I'm getting too ahead of myself. But yeah, just as it's valid that for whatever bioneurological reason you're attracted to, say, men, or the same sex or both sexes, you know what I mean? That what's happening there is happening with gender identity in a way, I suppose. It's oversimplification, but anyway. So what's going on in your brain plays a large role in determining the gender you identify with, and researchers working with transgender people are just starting to understand how. Being transgender has nothing to do with sexual identity, in other words, the physical body. As one doctor puts it, sexuality is about... Oh, no, sorry. Being transgender... No, sorry, I'm getting paragraphs mixed up. No, anyways. Being transgender has nothing to do with sexual identity. As one doctor puts it, sexuality is about who you're attracted to. Gender is about who you are. Where does gender originate? In the birthing process. A medical professional would declare your baby a boy or girl based on their sexual organs. So, when it comes to chromosomes, people seem to have a ludicrous idea that they take a sample of your chromosomes and that's how they tell you if it's a boy and a girl. No, it's ultrasounds, looking at the frontally bits and all that sort of screaming out vulgarity. Because even though you can do tests using on your blood, I think it's a lot more complicated than that. Those spinny things. I think it's also like we've got better in technology, darlings. So it's kind of like it's more than just taking blood. They have to go through. I mean, it has to go through a whole process. You know what I mean? You can't just get it from blood. It's a lot more complicated than that. So it's not like they take your blood and go, it's this. Why would they want it? Why would they? Actually, also, why would they? It's not their first thought to. It's like, you know, it's not as if you're going to give birth to a boy, and then you go, are you sure, doctor? You know what I mean? Because believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, if that was the case, if they tested your chromosomes since you were born, then someone is in a breach of patient and doctor not confidentiality, but you've been misdiagnosed then if you turn out to be intersex like 20 or 30 years down the road. When you go, I've got this dysphoria, you get everything checked and they go, oh, by the way, according to your DNA or whatever, you're intersex. Well, that's odd. I was told I was a boy or a girl when I was born. So they don't actually test your chromosomes when you're born. They just pull you out and go, it's a boy or it's a girl. You know what I mean? Hence why they also mean assigned at birth. People get so upset about assigned at birth. If I'm looking at your body and I say that, I'm giving you my observational opinion, or you know what I mean, as it were. So, or observation. So if I excuse my vulgarity, if I see a dick, I go, oh, it's a man. Yeah? I'm giving you that answer. I'm giving you that response to perceived anatomy. Assigned, and this is ludicrous, it does, I mean, I don't mean horrible, but it does reveal a bit of silliness, or people, the thing is, people find, there are various people who, God bless them, there's very people who are doing research in this, but I do question people's motives, because it's kind of like, how are you getting triggered by the terminology assigned male or assigned female at birth? Go look at what assigned means in the dictionary. It's another way of saying given. Yeah? If I say you were born a boy, I've given you a diagnosis. I've said to you, you're born. I pull you out your womb, not your own womb, you know what I mean, and go, it's a boy. I've given that prognosis. I've looked at it and gone, that's a boy. Given. Assign. When I assign you a task, I give you a task. Assigned. It's like me saying, I've assigned, it may probably be to some, I don't know, I mean, I was never good at grammar, but it'd be maybe grammatically to some confusing, I suppose. You know what I mean? But it's like, people get so hoity-toity and upset about this whole idea of assigned birth. Well, duh, it is assigned. It is assigned. They've gone, it's got a dick, it's a boy. The doctor's given his diagnosis, his opinion, his idea, yeah? People seem to think that when someone says assigned male at birth, they're guessing that it's a boy. Assigned doesn't mean guess, it means given. If I... you know what I mean? If I assign you something, I'm giving you something. You know what I mean? It's another way of saying giving you. Yeah? It may not work or apply to things like I've assigned you diabetes. Well, no, because not given, sorry. That didn't work, sorry. But you know, I've assigned you the prognosis diabetes. That may sound a bit weird. Or the prognosis that I've assigned is diabetes, or any other medical problem. You know what I mean? So it's not like assigned. You know what I mean? So assigned is not like they're guessing. If you think they're guessing, that's just stupid. If you're saying that that's why you're upset, because they're guessing, no, assigned is another way of saying given, and they have. Yeah, they are, aren't they? They're just looking at the frontal bits. They're not looking at the brain, not looking at the chromosomes or anything. Because if they looked at the chromosomes, they thought, hang on, looks like a boy, but it's intersex. You know, there's all kinds of variables that could happen if they actually did it. Not so, no. I'm not saying they should vivisect to put the baby, but you know what I mean. But they don't. They don't test your chromosomes when you're born. They just look at the ultrascan because they look out for the frontal bits, and then when they also pull you out, they don't go, it looks like a boy, madam, but let me go and check. You know what I mean? They don't do that. They just go, it's a boy, whee! Or girl, what are you doing? So yeah, so in the birth process, a medical professional will declare your baby a boy or a girl based on their sexual organs. But does this determine their gender? We're trying to change the understanding of gender, says a psychiatrist. And this is not just biologists, this is psychiatrists. Science has been trying to explain to people. First of all, and I hate to put this bluntly to you, because they'll never do it, because that would be conversion therapy. That would be wrong. Again and again, I'll say this. If it's generally a problem, this is a real problem to society, a real threat to society, a real clinical issue, transgender people won't exist. And as you can see, why they were protesting in London was because in the UK particularly, they're not protected from conversion therapy. There's nothing stopping you being sectioned for being trans. Yeah? But science ain't doing that, because science is behind you. Science is behind trans people. It's nothing to do with the woke community or the woke crowd. Science is behind them, okay? You need to get this straight. I'm just saying this. The example I give is an extreme case scenario of the conversion thing, but it's kind of like science is behind the trans community. Not because they don't want to offend people. Trans community don't have a word in it. At the end of the day, let me find out. If you're mentally screwed up, if it's a medical delusion, a genuine medical head, right? Science will say it flat out. They're not afraid to. It's like the whole idea of, it's like the old saying that the right wing use, but it's a joke when they use it. And that is, the facts don't appreciate your feelings. Science does not appreciate feelings. It's there to present facts. Yeah. So, if this was bullshit, if transgender people weren't valid, it won't be going rampant as it's been going. It would be treated like a condition, wouldn't it? And be cured. They wouldn't be going, we'll just push you further. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. You know what I mean? There'll be more research into how to cure it. You know what I mean? Anyway, but you see where I'm coming from. I'm giving extreme and probably oversimplifying it in certain cases, but you know what I mean? It's just ludicrous. And it's like, because science is behind it, okay? You have to, this is why I stopped doing gender research, because it's like, I've looked at the science, right? And until more comes out, I'll just wait. And then I think I've got a huge, as you know, I look into the esoteric and the occult and stuff like that. So I am sort of looking at the moment, but I have a book that's on my pile of books to read, and it's a book about transgender stories. So, if I'm thinking, well, okay, I've understood the science bit, I've read the science bit, what else better way to understand trans people is to read their stories, read their experiences, what it's like for them. But people tend to be looking for and that's my approach to research. A lot of people research it. I find it very bizarre, because they're trying to find problems where there isn't any problems. It's like, I thought people were fascinated by it. If you're fascinated by it, then why are you picking up on bullshit issues that don't exist, that were created by right-wing media, shit stirring, like things like people bring up toilets and sport. Those stories have no credence in reality. It's just people shit stirring and causing. And the problem is, certain people get more of a voice than others, unfortunately. So that's true though. It's like a lot of you'd be surprised. A lot of it. There's a wonderful site. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's literally a site that looks at mainstream media and then goes and investigates it. It's like, was it one time there was a flu? 64,000 people died of the flu. Turned out that, what was it, 20, it was only 22,000 people that actually died of the flu. The rest died of natural causes that weren't even related, but it was all recorded and splashed out by the media that 64,000 people died of this flu. I think it was 2019. So, but here's the thing. That, believe it or not, permeates. Even doctors, you'll see, because people go, I'm going to look up some stuff on YouTube. It's toxic. I find it very hard to find neutral stuff on YouTube. It's very toxic. You can have a really lovely, kind, loving doctor. Problem is, though, he reads the newspaper. He may read newspaper. Unfortunately, a lot of people believe what they read. So, you see where the problem is? You see where they're all, yeah? Right. So, so we're trying to change the understanding of gender, says psychiatrist Murat Alatani, sorry if I butchered his names, Altine, MD. That's one of my big goals. The main question that I'm asking is, where is the gender? Also, it's like Neil deGrasse Tyson said, you cannot deny, regardless of where it is, where it comes from. And the thing is, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's a physicist, you're probably thinking, yeah, he's a physicist, mate. Yeah, but no, but the thing is, his outlook on it is completely different. Rather than going, oh my God, the trans people are destroying society, he's like, why don't we just look at it and from a fascination? Like, I find it really fascinating that this is occurring in the nature of people, in our society, in the world that's going on. I find it fascinating that these different things are going on, because like in my video, like I think it might be hopefully in the link, because I basically use the same links and stuff because otherwise I'd be typing again. Because diversity is beautiful, so it's kind of like it's just fast. It should be fast. Like that's something fascinating. It's fascinating because but the thing is, in terms of gender identity, it's like he said, you cannot deny that it's not real because it's all around you. Science is based on observation, on a basic level, it's based on observation. It's happening all around you, so you can't deny it. Yeah. Whether it's men being slightly effeminate, or women being slightly masculine, this, that, or the other, you cannot deny that because it's observable. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's really cool. Also, the fact in America, he said to Ben Shapiro, why does it matter? The Constitution of the United States of America that you say you're trying to protect says that you can express yourself in any way possible. You're allowed to express yourself, right? Basically, you could say you're Mahatma fucking Gandhi. Excuse my language. You could say you're Mahatma fucking Gandhi. That's within your right, as long as you don't break the law by committing murder, hurting one, etc. So, according to the Constitution of America, you're allowed to identify as a woman. You're allowed to identify as a man within the grounds that you follow. At the end of the day, as long as you're benefiting the economy and don't kill anyone, you're fine. That's the Constitution of America. And yet these people, these right-wing nut jobs who claim that they're defending the Constitution, are going against it. It's really bizarre. But even he said, in latest psychiatrist said, he goes, why does it matter? These people who are trying to destroy trans people, there's something mentally unhinged about them. Is it sociopath? There's something wrong with these people. It's like, just leave them alone. If you have a problem with trans people, guess what? Ignore them, and you won't notice they're there. Okay? Odd, isn't it? And plus, does it affect your bills? Does it stop you from buying food? No. Well, shut up then. Sorry, I just think it's a bit silly the degrees of people that people go against trans people. It's like, Jesus. There's so many more important issues on the planet. But anyway, sorry, I'm digressing. I'm ranting. Sorry. Anyway, we're trying to change this agenda. Says there is one big goal. Main question I'm asking is, where is the gender? Sorry, where is the gender? Yes, sorry. We know that an embryo forms the genitalia specializes into either male or female. But what about development in the brain? And don't forget, what you have to understand is this. Science we know here, yeah, fair enough, yeah, you're not wrong on what you're saying. You come out of you could sit to me and talk about science. The thing is, it's cognitive dissonance, especially in the right-wing areas, is they don't like accepting new science. Science is changing. Science evolves. Science adapts. New things are discovered in science. What is it with people that don't get that? I find it ironic that if I present new scientific information, people will say, oh, no, but that's subjective. It's funny when I do it, it's subjective, but when other people do it, it's not. It's like there's crazy, I can't remember his name on Joe Rogan's show. He believed that the Earth was flat, or he believes in conspiracy theories and stuff like that. despite the fact that he was nuts, he said to Joe Rogan, he goes, "Where's your source that NASA's telling the truth?" And he goes, "Oh, it's on the internet." And he goes, "So why is it then that my source is the internet, yet it's invalid, and yet yours isn't?" You know what I mean? I'm not sure if I explained that or said that right. But you know what I mean? See where the point's coming from. It's like, how's that any valid? You know what I mean? Okay, so your scientific basis is YouTube. What's your scientific basis? Well, my scientific is YouTube. You're both in the same boat. You know what I mean? See, you know what I mean? So it's like, really? But yeah, it's like, the brain and the body can go in different directions. And, you know, I do apologise. If something I do come across a bit... If I do come across a bit of a dick, I do apologise. It's just so frustrating. I'm like, because people say to me, "Oh, I've done the research." I'm like, what scientific almanac did you read? Was it printed in the 1950s? It's like I said, if you actually find a decent video that's neutral to all this. I watched a video where somebody did bioneurobiology. I think they work in it and they got a degree in it. But it's like they pretty much laid into both sides of the political spectrum of right wing and left wing. But they said, the first thing that goes, right, first of all, to the right wing, trans women are women and trans men are women. That is backed biologically. Not necessarily in terms of physical sex, but in bioneurobiology, yeah? Because the thing is, people go, and the thing is, well, you can't say it's delusion. If someone says it's my consciousness, you can't say that's a mental delusion because, well, if that's just arrogant, that's just pig ignorant, that is. Quantum physics, all these different areas of science are still exploring what consciousness is. We have theories and philosophical ramblings, but we don't actually know what fucking consciousness is. So, as this will progress further in this article, what bioneurobiology, it's quite a long word saying it, is finding that it's not actually, it's a biological thing happening in the brain. How do I put it? How do I put it in the simplified terms? Because like I said, there's lots of pages that I had to go through and I'm trying to remember it all. Like I said, hopefully I included it in the bloody link in the description below. But it's not a mental illness. It's actually a biological phenomena, like being gay or being bi. You know what I mean? It's a biological thing. It's not like someone who's pretending, yeah? They're not pretending to be a woman. They literally are a woman. It's like, it just goes on. A lot of people hate, here's the irony, and then just shoot people in the foot. In the trans community, it does shoot them in the foot. Because if you look past the stigma of the old expression, a woman trapped in a man's body, because some of them don't like that expression, you do realise that is the best way to describe it, because that's what science is saying. And if you go down that path and go, this is what bioneurobiology says, so essentially I am a woman trapped in the wrong body. At some point, in other words, if you want to say God or fate, I was predestined by the stars to have a female body, but when I woke up out my mother's womb, I went, hang on a second, Mum, I'm in the wrong body. Yeah? So something happened to the body that didn't coincide with, in other words, some point, that's why I said they got to experiment on humans and stuff like that, which is the problem now. Basically, at some point during the development of birth, right? And it's not, and the thing is, it's still not an abnormality. Just because it doesn't conflict to your norms or your binary societal norms, which it isn't really. That's a lot of influence from, I can't remember what a friend of mine said. I think it's either a Victorian Edwardian. This whole idea of Adam and Eve bullshit. Centuries ago, since like 5000 BC, this was all seen as, they accepted it. It's seen as normal. Just because it conflicts with our perception of, or our construct, our societal construct, we see it as a genetic defect. No, nature doesn't follow your rules, ladies and gentlemen. Nature does what the hell it wants. Go out and look at nature. There's some really weird creatures. you'll get lizards that defy the rest of the other lizards. It's just like nature goes, why not? It's, you know, we're here because of random chance and various other factors. There's a, you know what I mean? It's nature doing its thing. Nature is chaos. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't follow your rules. It's like, you know what I mean? It's not as if nature goes, oh, sorry, honey, I put a female brain in a body of a boy. Oh, let me rectify that for you. You know what I mean? It doesn't conform to your rules. We don't write the law. When we say, oh, the natural order, the natural law, no, that's you judging nature, how you think nature to work, based on your observation. You know, a monkey, you see a monkey, and I'm sorry, vulgarity, and it's probably not relevant, but you may see a monkey picking its ass, and you think, oh, they're just as gross as us. The monkey could be just doing it on purpose in front of you to spite you. You know what I mean? You're just basing nature on your observation. We don't know what's going on. It's like we don't know what dolphins are saying. We don't know what whales are saying. And yet we think they're inferior. They're quite smart. You know what I mean? It's like I found out through developing a friendship with crows that crows have got the same level of intelligence as bloody a chimpanzee. That's a small bird. You know what I mean? Nature doesn't... Yeah, but as far as I'm concerned, that was just a bird. People look at birds and go, stupid bird. That bird is smart. You know what I mean? It's all down to your perception. So it's not a genetic defect. It's just nature. You know what I mean? It's natural. Anyway, so the brain and body go different directions. Dr. Iltony says, gender is not in our genitalia. There's something in the brain that determines gender. Male, female and transgender brain. The male and female brain have structural differences. He says, men and women tend to have different volumes in certain areas of the brain. You are my sunshine, can't wait, just wait for it, because this is just where it goes interesting. And if there's people out there who said they researched this, then how the fuck did you miss this? Yo, booyaka. Sorry. When we look at the transgender brain, we see that the brain resembles the gender, as in like, if you're someone who identifies as female, they look at your brain and go, oh look, you have female components. So I'm ruining it, sorry. When we look at the transgender brain, we see that the brain resembles the gender that the person identifies in. In other words, it's not a mental, it's not imagination making it up. Yeah, it's structurally as well. So again, if you're a woman in a man's body, you are essentially a woman trapped in a man's body. Oh God, I love science. See, this is, people say I find, if you know what I mean, I'm like, did you just like, sorry people, but did you miss this thing? Oh no, but subjective, innit? Did you miss these fucking pages, people? Excuse my language, but you know what I mean, it's like, it really irritates me, especially the right wing people as well, like conservatives like Matt Walsh and Brad Spiro, who flout science. It's funny. Do you know what makes me laugh? Matt Walsh put in his thing, put in his job page. Is it in job link or something like that? He put he's self-proclaimed biologist. Pfft. That's what I mean. All these people, you can't use science as an argument if you don't know all the facts. I'm sorry. If you don't know this crucial piece of information, then I'm sorry. It's like we're not going to have this conversation. It's not subjective. It's, you know what I mean, a scientist go. You know what I mean? It's like you go, oh yeah, it's subjective. You know, you're just interpreting sort of. It's like, do you want me to get a brain and rip it out and show you? Is that what you want biologists to do? To literally come up to you with a brain and go, oh, sorry, it's a heart. But you know what I mean? It's like, do you want them to slap you in the face with a brain? You know what I mean? Sorry, that sounds wrong. But you know what I mean? What's it going to take for you to like get this into your skulls? And not you, the viewers, but you know what I mean? These people that say they do. You know what I mean? Anyway. When we look at the transgender brain, we see that the brain resembles the gender that a person identifies in. I'll say Dr. A, it's easier for me to say. Dr. A says, for example, a person who was born with a penis, sorry, a friend of mine will get the reference because I like the way she says it's funny, the penis, but ends up identifying as a female, often actually has some of the structural characteristics of a female brain. Again, not made up, not imagination, not mental illness, but structural. Biochemical yo. Because seriously, it's like, okay, I understand things. Science has been slightly respectful of religion, yeah? But you do realise that the church has a lot of power on this planet. But then again, you go to the Vatican, their science division will tell you that the Bible's nonsense because it's written during a time where we didn't understand stars and all that sort of stuff, right? If transgender people... There's a reason why they took it off as a mental disorder. Because they went, oh, hang on a second. Wow. No, I think it's fascinating. It's incredible. Science is incredible. In fact, Neil deGrasse Tyson actually knows the guy who did MRI, who invented that thing. He came up with this idea, and that idea developed into that. I love science. But yeah, so it's like... There's people going, oh, but it's a mental delusion. They're deluded. It's like, no, it isn't. One, the actual list of symptoms don't fit what a delusion is or mental illness is. And two, this information. When they found, when they go, because as technology gets better, we can look inside it, can poke it, prod it without actually cutting people open. It's great. So yeah. So science hasn't, and people. It's funny that people who go on Joe Rogan's show go, oh, I'm a scientist. You haven't been internationally recognised, have you? You're just someone who's been ranting on YouTube. But mainstream academia, peer-reviewed academia, the academia of the academia, is like, how academic do you want this to go? Has flat out come out in support of transgender people. It has not come out and said, I'm sorry, this is all bollocks. You know what I mean? Come on, folks. How far do you want this to go for you to be convinced? You don't have to accept it. You don't have to accept it. You can still keep the opinion. Oh, I understand. But you can't say science says they're not valid because science says they are. Okay? So, you know what I mean? You still have the human rights. You still have, there's no law saying you can't accept that their gender or that sort of stuff. The law, all the law states is if you become violent. But then again, it applies to anyone. If I go up to someone and stab them, I'm going to go to jail, aren't I? That's just common sense. So it's kind of like, that's all the law does. You can still say that person's not a woman. If you lose your job, then that's still within the law, in a sense of, if you're working for a company that's about diversity, of course you can get fired. If you insult a black person and you're working a job that believes in diversity, you'll get fired. Yeah? Because also in a job, here's the other thing as well. Also in a job, you're allowed to have an opinion, but it's like, if you're depressed, then ideally you don't want to go to work, but best not to go to work. But it's like a boss. A boss has to leave, professionally, according to the work manual, you leave all your politics, all your problems outside the workplace. So any form of conduct that's inappropriate, you'll lose your job for. So it doesn't matter what your opinion is, you can still lose your job because it's not within conduct, yeah? Sorry. But yeah, it's like, science is inclusive. Science hasn't come out and said it's bullshit, that these people are mentally disturbed. It hasn't said that at all, you know what I mean? And because of the science, this is why, as our technology gets better, we get more sciencey, really cool, man, more advanced in our science. So it's like, seriously, and I don't mean to come across as a dick, but I find it frustrating, because I sit there and listen to people at times, I'm like, really? And they just repeat the same old rhetoric, all the same stuff. I'm like, really? I don't know if you can see it. I mean, it's getting bad now, but this wasn't me being a goth in my youth, or I'm secretly Emperor Palpatine. That's insomnia. I spent... So when I did the video for transgender rights and the laws and stuff, I did 7 to 8 hours non-stop throughout the night till through morning. Like I didn't have to work next day. Going on all these sites, reading them. Obviously, I didn't read all the articles of the law sort of thing, but in general, straight to the transgender thing. These, these so-called laws that violate your rights or restrict your rights, they don't. It just means it's just a lot of them. It's just the same as the gay rights. You don't have to accept people But the law doesn't persecute you for that. What it does, it protects people from being violent, from being hurt from violent people. That's all. It's like you can not accept trans people, but if you go out and punch them, then yeah, you'll get in trouble. That's all that law does. That's all the trans law does. It protects them from violence. Well, you still get beaten up, but you know what I mean, though. It didn't let them get away with it. You know what I mean? So I'm getting really fed up with it. It's like, if you want to learn about trans people, if you looked at science and you've perceived it to, if you've read up the science, right, and you, in your opinion, think it says this, or you perceive it to read that, fuck knows how you came to that conclusion. But you know what I mean? Because biology and science doesn't say it's bollocks. So if you're saying I've read biology and whatever, but you know what I mean? And I think also what it is people are reading the wrong bit. People, again, it's that people are obsessed with the actual physical body. Yeah? Scrap the body, forget, that's the other thing as well, forget your genitalia, because your body parts don't determine who you are anyway. Everyone knows that. I mean, like I said in other videos, your body parts are just tools or functions. You know what I mean? I don't say to you, I don't come up to you, hi, I have a penis. I have a penis. I'm a man. My name's Tristan. I go, hi, I'm Tristan. I identify as man, or you know what I mean? I don't walk up to you and go, I've got a penis. My name's Tristan. You know what I mean? It's coming from my language, but you know what I mean? So yeah, so as I do digress, I shouldn't distract people from the thing, but I have to add my fights in it. I find it really frustrating. It's like, really? How do people miss all these chapters? Or they try and say, oh yeah, no, I've read into that, and then they try and twist it and say that it's not intentionally, but it's like, I don't know, the thing is, if I know something's bullshit, I'll willingly come out and accept the fact it's bullshit and say, I will willfully say I'm wrong. I don't know everything in this world, but to give credit where credit's due, you ask anyone, I'm good at investigating something. So a friend of mine, when I used to have a thing for UFOs and stuff like that, someone used to say to me, oh, there's this cave, I think it was a cave or something, I can't find it, I went off and did some digging for it. They did some digging as well, they're not dummies, but they did some digging, couldn't find it. I went and did it. I can't remember how I found it, but I found it. Because I was that good at investigating stuff. So where credit's due, I'm good at looking at stuff. So, and believe me, I actually make sure that believe me, and this is why I took hours on some of the subjects I did. But you click through this, I went through the internet, finding a website that's neutral, that's academic, or just academic. But anyway, so, and it's hard work because a lot of it's either right wing or it's biased to either direction, if it makes sense. So, for example, a person who was born... So let's read that again, because this is a really important thing to get in. I do apologise, but I want to add my thoughts as well, because otherwise, what's the point of me doing a video? Because you might as well just read it yourself. You know what I mean? When we look at transgender brain, right? Listen, it's really important, everyone. We see that the brain resembles the gender that the person identifies as. Dr. A says, for example, a person who was born with a penis but ends up identifying as a female often actually has some of the structural characteristics of a female brain. Right. I'm going to sit here for a couple of seconds, right? Pause this video. Take some time, take about 2 minutes to think of it. Let it sink in your brain. I'm not saying it's stupid. And I know you're not stupid, that's why you need to sink this in. Right, okay. You see what they're saying. You're seeing how the validity they're giving this. See, the thing is, like I said, at the end of the day, I don't put up with bullshit. If something's bullshit, I'll admit that's bullshit. The reason why I do a lot of these videos about transgender people, is because I will stand up for anyone who's been treated like the underdog or been looked down upon. You know what I mean? And especially when it gets to the point where people are going, oh, why are you not doing a video on Black Lives Matter and stuff like that? It's because with racism, certain things like that, scholars do better argument for that in to a degree already for me. What a lot of people don't really highlight in the arguments or debate is how stupid people get to the lengths of, I don't know, attacking trans people or trying to, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, we understand that you don't accept trans people, sir, but why are you going on this crusade to eradicate them? It's like, you've got more important things to do with your life? It's like, seriously? These people are really unhinged. It's like, just leave them alone. Most people don't care. Most people are accepting wonderful people who just want to get on with their lives, pay the bills, and things like that. But then you have the small right-wing nutjob blowing faction that wants to eradicate gays, wants women to be in the kitchen. You know what I mean? So they're anti-feminist, they're anti-trans, they're anti-gay, they're anti. You know what I mean? Who just won't leave it alone. Unfortunately, they're given more of a voice, and their lies and their crap permeates the internet and the world. And unfortunately, it gets to the people you don't want to get to, like the decent people, because it is like a poison. But anyway, and the brain similarities aren't only structural. Actually, I think I might have done a video on this before. I can't remember because I can just remember the picture. Or what might these people? I don't know. If I have, I do apologise. But of course, my thoughts were different. But then again, it's always good to ram home a point, isn't it? Here's a scientific essay. Do it to like engrave it in their head for you. You know what I mean? But then again, the problem is it's very hard to tell because I've read loads of scientific papers that say the same. So it looks, that's probably get deja vu. But if I've already done a video on this article, I do apologise. But yeah. But hey, it's important. Things are important. There's always things important. Anyway. And I like to do videos about important stuff. So anyway. And the brain similarities aren't only structural. Oh yeah. Sorry. No, not that sort of. We are also finding some functional similarities between the transgender brain and its identified gender. In studies that use MRIs to take images of the brain as people perform tasks, the brain activity of transgender people tends to look like that of the gender they identify with. Research in these areas is extremely limited, and more research needs to be done to find conclusive results. Dr. A notes. But we are already seeing definite trends. Because also, like this thing about the bio-neurology, is like I said, they really want to get surgical, if you want to think of it that way. So they didn't actually paint a picture, but because we can do what's the word? There are certain, we can experiment on humans because the problem, but there's a certain line you can't cross when it comes to human experimentation. So I think we are probably talking, I don't know, would it involve putting probes in a woman when she's pregnant or something? You know, doing all kinds of uncomfortable, unpleasant experimentation? I don't know, because that's what it sounds like if it requires the laws being changed. I think they have to cross the line to go wham, you know what I mean? So they're 97% or 98% there. You know what I mean? Is the impression I got from those papers. It's like we could go have some of this 100% bang cert, but it involves they've experimented on animals and certain things like that. But anyway, it's complicated. Well, not complicated. It's just a lot there to relate. Researchers are already seeing definite trends. Though these differences in brain structure and function are important markers for gender determination, it isn't always as simple as male or female. Some research shows that the brains of transgender people are somewhat in between, sharing characteristics of both male and female brains. Dr. A says, I wonder, just to throw out there, if you're doing this research, scientists, you know, I'm talking to people who are doing this research now, I'm not sure if it might. Oh, here you go. Oh no, it's answering it for me. Here you go. I was just thinking now, I was about to say before it gets to it, I got an inkling that I could be on the same wavelength here. But wouldn't that explain if you have it so it's reading on the thing, right? On the MRI, that they got characteristics of both. Would that then explain non-binary people, genderqueer people? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I saw a key word here. Anyway, this is constant with a growing understanding that gender exists on a spectrum. As Neil deGrasse Tyson says, of course it does. You can see it in front of you. I love science. And the thing is, that may sound so simple, but this is the other thing that always is my pet peeve. Common sense. It's like people go. It's like when they on. If you, for example, if you ever, for those of you who own a dog, right? Have you found it mind-blowingly hilarious when science comes out and goes, we've discovered that dogs could do this, and we've known all along because we've owned a frigging dog. And it's like, we could have told you that through common sense because we got a dog. We looked at a dog and went, yeah. You're like, wow, that's new. We're like, we've known that all along, mate. You know what I mean? There's a certain degree, not just science, we're in a society where people go, oh, I didn't know they could do that. You know what I mean? There's a level of common sense there as well, which is like, oh my God, it's crazy. Oh, but science is wonderful. So regardless of what anyone says, right, before I carry on, trans women are women, trans men are men. And all I'm going to say is, if you're transgender, my best advice I could give, and I keep saying to pick my trans friends, and despite the fact I have friends, or well, I call them sisters from another mother, or brothers from another mother, is when I look, if I do research, there's no bias in this. Like I said, I don't accept bullshit. If something's to be proven to be all bullshit, it may make me unpopular, but I'll come out and say it. You know what I mean? So, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say then, but you mean, it's like, yeah. I forgot where I was going to go with that, but yeah, anyway. So this is constant. We understand that gender exists as a spectrum, and people identify it not only as male or female, but also as gender queer, gender fluid, or non-binary. So yeah, so I wonder if that explains that. You know what I mean? The same way, you know, if you looked at a certain structures and went, oh, we noticed this pattern in gay people or lesbian, you know, it's like, these readings, you know what I mean? It's fascinating. But, you know what I mean? So, from what I've read so far, though, it's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's like, you're probably thinking, how can these people still think it's mental illness? And you can see my frustration. It's like, why people... And the thing is, you present this information to someone, and they go, oh, yeah, that's subjective. It's like, no, they're literally saying, this article... And I know it's just a science article, but it's a science article that's putting it down in layman's terms for you. It can't get any more layman than this, right? They're not saying it could be this or it could be that. It's not subjective. They're saying this is how it works. This is what we're finding so far, how it works, and this is the way it is. You don't have to agree with it, then fine. But you can't then go saying, in the name of science, I'm going to destroy trans people or disprove trans people or say they don't exist or not valid. It's like... Because you've got the scientists sitting there going, bitch, please, we just told you that. You know what I mean? Don't speak on our behalf. Fuck off. Just come around to be doing. This is consistent with growing understanding because gender exists on a spectrum. It does. With people identifying, but also not. These terms refer to gender identities that incorporate a variety of gender characteristics. Understanding gender dysphoria. In a world that still misunderstands, yes, discriminates, yes, against and victimises transgender people. The thing is also as well, people go, I'm not transphobic, I don't have a problem with trans. The fact that you don't... You're entitled to opinions, I don't want to have an opinion, but you can't say you're not transphobic when you say, I don't accept their... If you say I don't accept their delusion, or you think it's a delusion, well, by saying it's delusion, you're misunderstanding and discriminating, and two... part of discriminating and disbelieving is actually under transphobia. Same with homophobia. You know what I mean? Under the same definition, it's like... So it's like, just be careful. I'm not saying that person necessarily is, all these people are, but just be careful where you tread. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, you're entitled to your opinion. Yeah, people are entitled to their opinion, but you have to... you have to accept certain things. It's like, if you're going to go down one route, then you're going to have to own it. if you're not saying you're going down that route, but you expect people to do this or this, that, it's like, you know what I mean? Depends which angle you're coming from. You have to be careful. Just be careful, you know. And not being funny, I respect people's opinion, but if you've got a problem with trans people, or if you don't believe that trans people are valid, not being funny, I don't want to know. I've got more important things to talk about, like war, injustice, poverty, all kinds of other more important issues. You know what I mean? So anyway, so in the world that misunderstands, yes, it discriminates totally against and victimises transgender people. Research demonstrating that gender develops in the brain could have important implications for transgender people. Well, not really, when considering that people are ignoring the science. This is the other thing this is what gets me as well, is they need to friggin', because sadly people believe everything they see on the news. They need to come out and say this on live television. You know what I mean? Come on, biologists, you need to say this on live television. You need to explain this. Do a whole big program on transgender science. Put it out there so people can watch and go, oh, well, I never. Problem solved. Because the problem is no good writing. You can have scientific papers. You can have everything out there on the internet. So there. So, important implications for transgender people. Well, no, because people won't listen. Don't choose not to listen, or choose to blind eye to it, or cherry pick science, or whatever. They need to come out and say this stuff in public. There's also hope that this research will give us a new understanding of gender dysphoria, the psychological, psychological distress that many transgender people experience because their assigned gender doesn't match the way they see themselves, he says. If we can define gender dysphoria better, we can then tailor treatments for it, he says. So, you know, because a lot of people, if you've got gender dysphoria or any kind of, like, at the time you think is a mental issue because you don't know what's going on, they can go, so you imagine now, like, maybe not now, but maybe in next, I'm going to be optimistic, 10 years' time, we'll have, we were to have an algorithm where the MRI goes, do you want love? Come with me. Scan the brain. There you go. That's not the problem in terms of medical problem, but that's why you're feeling this way, because you're this. You know what I mean? Yeah, in terms of gender, but I wouldn't say it. I'm not saying it's like Star Trek where it goes, okay, yeah, according to these scans, you've been watching too many reality TV. You know what I mean? Not that sort of cool MRI, you know what I mean? But anyway. So if we can define transgender with a strange it says, so those treatments involve taking steps to help a transgender person live as a gender they identify with. This may include medical transition with hormones or surgery in some cases, as well as with therapy. A lot of transgender people are diagnosed with bipolar disorder or depression or anxiety, or actually suffering from gender dysphoria. Doctor says, because the other thing is, the hope is that we'll be able to properly diagnose these people and treat them appropriately so they don't develop depression and anxiety. Because that's also interesting, because let's look at this another way as well. That's interesting because, say for example, I've been diagnosed with bipolar. What happens if you didn't necessarily say identify or feel as the opposite sex, but there was some... But there's something going on that you couldn't put your finger on, right? They then scan your brain. So say, for example, you've got a male body, but you've got the brain of a woman. What's happening is that bipolar mood swing that's going on could be the fact that the engine's in the wrong car. You know what I mean? A simple way of putting it, but you know what I mean? Fascinating. But yeah, so it's like you could be... Imagine how many people are bipolar and they're like, actually, not bipolar, there's nothing actually wrong with me. What's the matter? Why am I having these crazy things then? Well, that's because you're in the wrong body, love. What? Oh, no, don't go wrong, you're still you, but it's just that you have a female brain in this male body, or you're... Wow. Wow. So yeah, that's it. That's the article. But yeah, no, because I think I might have used the picture from Google image search, but that isn't... But yeah, but that, I love that. I just, in terms of fascinating stuff, because it's like, are you bipolar or you got two? It's like, Mr. Spock, motion and logic. Is it because you've got a female brain and a male body, and they're going, the conflicting storm is creating that bipolar phenomena, syndrome to occur. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I So I want to do this pack. I can't remember if I'd done an article, like this article before, but at least this time around, there's also different thoughts to it and different ways of me talking about it and stuff. But my perception or my way of expressing things has changed. But I don't mean to come across as a dick to people. It's just very frustrating because people go, according to science, it says it's a delusion and blah 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 blah. All I say is this: it's not a delusion. One, it's not a delusion, right? Two, forget about their bodies. Throw the body away. Well, not quite literally, because that'd be messy, but sorry. But forget about their anatomy, right? This is to do with the mind. Yeah? If the gender, because that's the other thing as well. If you look at, again, people don't like the misuse of words, but gender originally, where it came from, I think it's either Greek or Roman, has nothing to do with the body. It actually means type or variety. So, you have to learn that these two are separate, even when the words are invented. They're separate, yeah? And irregardless of what sex they're born in, I know time's getting on, but to be fair, I actually finished work late, so anyway, and I haven't got work tomorrow. I'll be having a line anyway, but that's the thing, you see, people are obsessed with the gonadal area. And like I said, anyway, it doesn't matter what you. To be fair, also, let's even go, like I said in the other videos, let's go really basic. It doesn't matter what's going on in here. That is still a function. That still does not define you. It doesn't matter if let's just say that transgender people don't exist. Your private parts, your sex organs still do not make you who you are. Yeah? My sense of humour, my personality is not based on the fact that I have testicles. That part is all in my brain, baby. So, you know what I mean? And the problem is, like all psychology, that's the thing is, psychologists say, the problem is in this whole thing, is people fixate on the body and sex. They're so fixated on that person was born, say for example, as a trans woman, right? They can't get past that fixation of, but they were born a man. They were born a man. They can't get past that fixation. Take that shit out of your brain. Let it go. It's not important anymore, right? And then if you look at this side, right, and look into what's going on this side, forget about their body. It's a bit morbid, isn't it? They're born a man. What, you want them to be male, do you? Sorry, Jacob, but anyway. But you know what I mean? It's like, if they get rid of that, they have that fixation with it. And the problem is, whilst they have that fixation on it, they can't then be more subjective to what's actually progressing in terms of knowledge, etc. You know what I mean? They're too busy, like, they're born this, they're born this, they're born this, but they're born this, but they're born... It's an obsession. It's really sad. People obsess... I think it's sad that people obsess with gender. Anyway. It's like, fuck me, it's the most unimportant thing in the universe is gender. It's like, seriously? Fuck's sake. That's the other thing as well. It's quite ironic that I've noticed over the years, people who are not trans go bang on more about gender, especially with gender reveals. It's really bizarre. Bang on more about gender than transgender people do. It's like, Jesus Christ. It's like, give it a rest. I miss the days when we used to talk about stars and constellations and what could be out there and the many mysteries of the cosmos. But yeah, it's like, what happened to those days? It's nuts. But yeah, so yes, you can't... biologically, their sex is this, that, or the other. That is not the point. Stop focusing on that part of what's happening, or that argument, and go, okay, their body's still... They're not saying they're literally... I mean, at some point in the future, we may have the technology to go absolute atomic, on the molecular level. like transporter. Okay, step in a transporter will make you completely biologically female, or whatever. You know what I mean? Forget about the sex. Because that's the other thing as well. As they say, you can't change sex. And then they go, oh, you can't change sex, you're deluded. Right, okay. It's not... If you're saying thing is, mental delusions have sod all to do with the body. That's the brain, right? So that's where their argument looks stupid, because it's like you're still talking about a separate thing here. It's like you're trying to... You know, that's the funny thing as well. They say gender and sex is not separate, yet they separate it in their argument by saying it's a delusion, not biological. It's like, exactly. So forget the fact that they were born with a male, with a penis or a JJ, right? Forget that for a second, and look what's going on there, right? We'll go from there, right? So when we go from there, okay, you're saying it's delusion. Science says it isn't. Okay? So what part of that you're not getting? Yeah? The reason I'm looking at that, because I'm pretending I'm talking to one of these people, right? What is it these people are not getting? I'm like, oh my God. And people bang on about it. And I think as transgender, accepting transgender people, you can still have your opinion, but accepting them in society is not going to fucking endanger society. It's just, oh my God. There are countries that have been living with thing is, and it comes down to social fucking cultural shit. We've lived with transgender people for decades. We claim to be modern, and yet we're kicking off shit about this stuff. You know what I mean? We lived with transgender people for decades, and no one noticed. All of a sudden, it's becoming a problem. If you just ignore right, you're worried about these laws coming out. The reason why these laws are coming out is because a bunch of dickheads are targeting and victimising trans people, so then the government's gone, fine, the only way we're going to do this is shut you up by bringing out this, like, at some point, people are afraid that these laws will get extreme. It will do if these right-wing nutjobs don't shut up. You know, it's not like hunting them like the witch hunt. It's just like, leave them alone. This is not Salem anymore. This is not the witch hunts anymore, all right? You can't say they're deluded because science says they're not. And stop saying you're talking in the name of science. You're not talking in the name of science. I've read the science. Well, if you read the science, then you know it's not a medical delusion. It's not a mental delusion. So, seriously. But yeah, so forgetting all the physical... forget the shell. You know, forget the body. A trans woman is a woman. Don't look downstairs. Just ignore everything. Just ignore, look into their eyes. Ignore the car. Look at the engine. Yeah? A trans woman is a woman. Oh. And a trans man is a man. Yeah? The fact, you know, I don't identify as a man or a woman, to be fair, because at the end of the day, I'm non-binary. But here's the joke as well. In society, because you go, what makes a woman? Can you define what a woman is? Women don't know what a woman is. That's why there's so many insecurities and problems in society, because they're trying to fit into boxes. Or, you know, according to years ago, society used to have women second place. And it defined a woman as someone who, you know, does this, does that, stays in that place there, stays in this place here. There's so many developments in culture, or changes in culture, that people are confused. You know, what does it mean? You know, people, you know, got things like toxic masculinity, anxiety. It's like men can't be seen as weak, and all, you know, all this nonsense. It's like men have no clue what it means to be a man, or a woman has, you know, and vice versa. But it has nothing to do with gender or flipping trans people. There's none of that what's causing the problem. It comes down to expectations, societal expectations over the years. Some are old-fashioned, that have been let go of. That's the thing, it's not that old. It's big Victorian or Edwardian nonsense. Back in the days of Rome and Greece, a lot of women, you know, actually, okay, the thing is, people say women were at home most of the time. They weren't in government. What you fail to realise is that the women had their husbands by the balls, so they actually had the real power in Rome. You know what I mean? I think there's a famous story that Athens was brought to his knees when all the wives of the senators refused to have sex with him. So anyway, well, it wasn't just the wives thing; it was all the women in Athens or something like that. It was quite extravagant. That one sticks in my brain because I think that's hilarious. It's like, but please, darling, I want sex. No. So they may have been at home. Actually, the women were just like living life luxury, getting fed grapes and all that sort of stuff. But they had a say in power. So this idea of women being second, that's an Edwardian thing. That's just, you know what I mean? So it's a cultural thing. That's fuck all, trans people are not causing the problems. It's a cultural thing. So yeah. But anyway, I don't want to babble on too much, but yeah, so yeah, I mean, I hate having to do these videos because the science is there. You know what I mean? The science is there. And if you're trans and you're watching this, and I do apologise for some of the vulgarity words used, but hey, I like to make it interesting, and just know that science is on your side. Don't worry about it. But oh yeah, no, sorry, that's it. Going back to the thing I was going to say earlier that I forgot to say, that I lost track on. If you're someone who's trans, right, and you're worried about what people think of you, excuse language about these, but fuck them. The only people that should matter in your life, and this applies to everyone, when you're worried about what people think of you, the only thing that matters in your life is those who are your friends, your close friends, people who are around you all the time, your friends who love you and care for you and accept you for who you are. They are the ones that should only matter. They're the ones, So, it's gone. So, some guy on a bus doesn't accept you. Fuck him. He's not important. Is he in your life? Does he ever say hello? What's he done for you? He's done fuck all. He's done nothing for you. Forget about them. Ignore them. At the end of the day, your life revolves around your friends, your family, and your job. Don't worry about all these unimportant, trivial nonsense. You always get arseholes and dickheads out there. Don't worry about it. So just concentrate on, keep. At the end of the day, if you've got friends and people who accept you and love you for who you are, that's all you need to care about. That's all you need to worry about it. You walk down that road and work it, yeah? As they say, you work it, girl. You work it, man. You work it. You just walk. You walk down that road and hold your head high. And a lot of things, people will bully you because of insecurities. They hate the fact that you're confident. They hate the fact that you can walk down the road, wear what you want, be you, and they hate that. So yeah, fuck them. Just be yourself. Don't worry about it. And at the end of the day, if you're someone who doesn't accept trans people, that's fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion. I just don't want to be involved in that. I mean, I'll hear. Don't get me wrong. I'll hear your opinion once, but I don't want a repetitive fucking record of it. It's like, Jesus Christ. It's like, I'm sat again. I used to be obsessed with having a go at vegans and religious people. Guess what? I don't anymore. And I sit there going, I thought my obsession was bad, or my thing. But I've grown up out of that, so I might make some jibes and stuff, but I'm not just, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? No. So, so I hope you found, sorry that I rambled through as well, but I hope you found this video useful. And I may come across as a bit of a dick sometimes, but as you can tell by my frustration, the science is there. Like I said, when I looked at this, when I spent hours doing the thing, looking at, not for this video, but various other stuff, oh my god, if you actually, I think it's Google Scholar is a good one to go to, because it just gives, you don't get articles, you get actual academic documents, PDFs, stuff like that. Oh my god, the equation in any academic, any bioneurological lab across the country or globe, they all say the same stuff. They all have the same results from their work. So it's like, after, I spent hours upon hours and all the science says the same thing. And people may go, but this is an article. That's because sometimes scientists like to do articles where they put things in layman's terms, because a lot, like I said, when I was trying to explain the things I read, there's so much there, so much detail there. It's like, you have to read this, like, oh my god, it's quite a lot of pages, but yeah. So trans men are men, and trans women are women. They are valid. If you don't agree with that, that's fine. Don't expect me to agree with you. Yeah? That's the other thing I find interesting as well, is people trying to keep ramming this point home in my head. They keep saying to me, it's a delusion, it's clear delusion, it's clear delusion. And it's like, what, you want me to agree with you? That's your opinion. My opinion is, science says they're valid. You don't have to accept that, but it's valid. They're valid. And can I just say, all humans are deluded. They seriously are. We think we're the most superior life form going. You know what I mean? We're deluded. We're monkeys on a fucking... Not monkeys, I mean, we're apes on a floating rock. If you go back in my videos, there's a video I did about humans being weird. Humans are weird. Considering that what humans get up to, or what humans do, or how humans... If you look at humans as a whole, you'll be sat there going, and people then have issue with someone who identifies as the opposite gender? You think that's weird? All humans are weird. It's like, I'm not going against religious people, but religious people are weird for believing in the ideas they're weird. People who don't believe in their ideas are weird. We're equally weird no matter which way we go. Yeah? Sorry about my numbers. But as you can see, I get frustrated with it because it's like, seriously, what? But that's fascinating. And also, just imagine though, because also, the dichotomy it presents yourself with. The other thing is, if you eradicate trans people, how many friggin'... Imagine the rates on the bipolar scale would go up. Yeah? Because think of it, that's interesting. Because if you've been brought up in an environment or a societal, cultural thing that doesn't have genderqueer or non-binary or these things, what the hell? Then you're not going to know about it. You're not going to question it. You're not going to look into it and go, what's going on? You know what I mean? It's not until you go to a doctor and he goes, you've got bipolar, but then what do we do? Further scans and all that sort of thing, like, tests, whatever. And they come back to you and go, oh, yeah, that we've found out what it is. It's because what it is you've got a female brain. In a man's body, for example. So yeah, isn't that incredible though? That's what I mean. Thing is, right? People go in an odd direction when it comes to research, and plus they ignore key academic points, which is odd. I get excited at this. I don't go, well, this is that. I don't go out seeking problems or creating more problems and solutions. I get excited by everything I come across, and I'm like, you're finding problems. You know what I mean? It's like, according to science, they're deluded. No, according to science, they're valid. If you don't accept that, then fair enough. But don't expect me to agree with your opinion or your perception of what they've just fucking explained to you. You know what I mean? Because this is a layman's term article. They're saying it as clear as day. They can't get simpler than that in their explanation. Yeah? So, ignore their genitalia. Look them in the eyes, or soul, metaphorically. Look into their soul. If they have a soul of a woman, they're a woman. If they have a soul of a man, they're a man. And as long as they're nice, decent people, which a lot of them are, and you're a nice, decent person, you'll get along fine. It doesn't matter, does it? At the end of the day, when I go to a party, I don't look at people's genitalia. I go, hi, my name's this. They go, their name's this. And then we talk about geeky stuff. The body doesn't... Actually, oddly enough, the body has fuck all to do with human socialising. You know what I mean? Unless, of course, it comes to sexual activity. But apart from that, you don't judge people on their physical sex, do you? You judge them on their personality. Well, the personality doesn't come from their loins, does it? It comes from their brain. Well, some women go, oh yeah, but men just only think with their dick. But you know what I mean? It's all in there. So why are you worried about down there? You're talking to the brain, not the gonadal area. You know what I mean? So I hope you found my video insightful and helpful. Sorry about my ramblings, but yeah, it's just frustration. You know what I mean? But I don't mean to come across as a dick. If you do think, oh, this guy's a dick, I don't mean to come across as a dick. That's not my intention. It's just frustration. You know. So I do thank you for listening. If you're sat there going, no, that's all right, man, you're just being honest. The thing is, at the end of the day, I just want to be honest. I may come across as aggressive, but it's not that. I just want to be honest. And at the end of the day, if something's bullshit, I have no problem saying it's bullshit, admit it's bullshit. But seriously, it just frustrates me. You know, you can see you can understand where I'm getting from. It's frustrating, isn't it? When you see that something as clear as day is there and people are not seeing it. You know what I mean? So, I hope you found this video insightful, helpful, etc. And if so, hit the like. And if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. And, you know, at the end of the day, I also think that it's like diversity is beautiful. I mean, for God's sake, we live in a world where if you're ginger, they hate you. You know what I mean? But diversity is beautiful. As Lady Gaga's song said, no matter if you're gay, straight or bi, as a lesbian, transgender, alive, I'm on the right track, baby, because I was born this way. You know what I mean? Diversity. If you look at nature, nature creates beauty in many forms. We do it with art and our expressionism, yeah? Why are people trying to destroy the canvas? Why are people trying to destroy the painting? There's a beautiful collage, a mosaic. Society is developing into this big, beautiful mosaic of diversity and of not just physical expressions, but personalities and ideas. You know, why are we trying? Don't go dark on me. Why are there people out there trying to destroy that? It's crazy. There are more important immediate issues to concentrate on. So, I shall stop there before I keep carrying because I could do. If I had the kahunas, metaphorically speaking, I would do bloody lectures on it. People, you know, it'd be like, it would be probably like 24-hour seminar you're looking at because I'd just be like ranting through it. Right? You know what I mean? And I don't profess to be a genius. I don't profess to know the answers. All I can say is I hate to be right. I love to be wrong because that's where I learn. This I would bet my bottom dollar to because the science says it. It's clear as freaking day. It's clear as fucking day, man. So, thanks for watching. Take care. Be well.